This is 5 on your side at 5. Focused on you.
A watershed moment in U.S. history. Hours ago, President Joe Biden released a letter announcing he will no longer seek re-election in November. Good evening, I'm Mike Bush. This breaking news comes after dozens of Democrats called on the 81-year-old president to drop out. This on the heels of the Republican National Convention. President Biden officially endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris after the announcement, but the future of this race remains largely unwritten. We have team coverage. Political editor Mark Maxwell is here to help us understand what's next, and Laura Barczewski is talking to Democrats heading to the convention next month. But first, Karen Caifa is in Washington with the latest.
President Joe Biden Sunday afternoon saying he's dropping out of the race for president, but will remain in office until the end of his term. The president posting a letter on X saying, quote, "I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term."
I think today we should focus on Joe Biden's incredible legacy of service to our nation, his selflessness, his accomplishments in his decades in the Senate.
In a separate post, he went on to say that he is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee.
I fully support Kamala Harris. And in fact, she's been trained by the best. Joe Biden was a vice president himself, and so she probably had the best mentor.
The announcement following weeks of mounting concerns over Biden's stamina and age. Calls for him to depart the race came after a widely criticized debate performance hosted by CNN less than a month ago. The president said he will address the nation later this week. He's currently isolating at his home in Delaware after testing positive for COVID Wednesday, just before he was supposed to speak at an event in Las Vegas. The Republican nominee, former President Donald Trump, responding to the news on Truth Social, saying, quote, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was." It has been decades since a sitting president has decided not to seek re-election and drop out of the race. The last was Lyndon Johnson in 1968.
Continuing our team coverage is Laura Barczewski, who is speaking with area Democrats on their reaction to this news. Laura.
Mike, I just talked with Wesley Bell, who is running against Congresswoman Cori Bush for the 1st District. He's here in the Grove today for a campaign event, and he tells me that we need to focus on President Joe Biden, who was one of our most impactful presidents in our country's history. He said the Democratic Party still has a lot of work to do to try and beat former President Donald Trump in November, but believes Vice President Kamala Harris could be the right person for the job, but he stopped short of fully endorsing her.
I mean, admittedly, I am a fan of the VP. I think she is talented. You know, we're both I'm a current prosecutor, potentially a former prosecutor in 15 days. But understanding her background, I think she's a very sharp and talented, astute person. I think she would do a great job. But there are other Democrats I think would also do a great job.
Bell's primary opponent, Congresswoman Cori Bush, said this in a statement: "As we look forward to November, it is clear to me that Vice President Kamala Harris has the vision to carry this legacy forward, defeat Donald Trump, and I unequivocally endorse her for President of the United States." We'll have much more reaction coming up tonight at 10. Reporting live in St. Louis, Laura Barczewski, 5 on your side.
And reaction from other lawmakers are already pouring in. Former President Obama sharing in part, quote, "Joe Biden has been one of America's most consequential presidents, as well as a dear friend and partner to me. Today, we've also been reminded again that he's a patriot of the highest order." In his statement, Obama does not mention any type of endorsement for another Democrat. Even Republicans are weighing in. House Speaker Mike Johnson slammed Democrats on social media, calling them, quote, "complicit in the largest political cover-up in history." He goes on to add that it, quote, "doesn't matter who runs against President Trump." And more reaction from lawmakers is likely to come in all night. Political editor Mark Maxwell is here to break down the reaction and what comes next. Mark?
Well, Mike, what comes next is organized chaos. The Democratic National Convention kicking off in 29 days, just 4 weeks from tomorrow. Thousands of delegates are now unbound and free to nominate and vote for the candidate they prefer to run for president. We're here with 5 on your side political analyst Anita Manion and the chair of the Missouri Democratic Party, Russ Carnahan. Mr. Carnahan, first to you. We're hearing from some of those delegates that they are looking to you in the party for guidance. I'm sure your phone is blowing up with a lot of people reaching out to you in the last few hours. How would you instruct delegates to proceed over the next 4 weeks?
Well, first of all, a big shout out to President Biden putting the country first over his own interest, and he will go down in history as a great president. You know, millions of people voted for this ticket. 4 years ago, 14 million voted just in the primary this year alone. And so I think there's going to be a strong contingent to get behind the vice president to step up as Biden has passed the torch.
The Republicans and the Trump campaign are already attacking Vice President Kamala Harris and using this moment to argue that Democrats aren't very democratic if the elite power brokers at the top of the party can ordain or coronate one candidate over the rest. Should this convention truly be an open one? And what is the healthiest way for the party to bring voters into this convention conversation?
I think that's actually already been done. Like I said, millions of people voted for the Biden-Harris ticket 4 years ago. 14 million, in fact, this year voted.
Well, there wasn't any real competition, and states discouraged other people from running.
Still, she's had the experience. She's been, millions of people have voted for her, and I think there will be a process through the convention to have delegates weigh in. Again, I think this is a jolt of excitement for the party. That's going to change the direction of this race.
A jolt of excitement. Anita Manion, our political analyst, expert political scientist. A lot of Republican political strategists are not thrilled right now. They're having to throw out their game plan they had. They thought they were on cruise control for a clean sweep in November. Now every poll we've seen up until now, you can throw it out. It's meaningless. How steep is that hill for either Vice President Harris or some unknown candidate to climb in just 4 months?
Yeah, it is unprecedented. That word we use all the time. We've never had a president drop out of the race this close to the election. This climb is less steep for Vice President Harris because she's been on the ticket. She also would have access to those campaign funds pretty seamlessly, and she's vetted and run national campaigns. Also, she could very seamlessly work with Biden's current campaign staff, bringing on her own folks, but it would be a more seamless process for her. A little more challenging for anyone else.
She also did just today officially take over the campaign funds. There's a transition. It's now called Harris for President. That campaign paperwork is being filed with the Federal Election Commission. Do Democrats run a risk of just rushing her to the top without having an open floor debate? There's been some Democrats who say it's a healthy discussion.
It would be if we had, primaries that started back in January, February, March, but now we're in this really consolidated timeline. And so I think for the Democrats, a lot of them see a need to unify, focus this campaign, and move forward towards November.
Anita Manion and Russ Carnahan, thank you both for joining us on such short notice in this big moment in presidential politics. We will continue to hear from both of them tonight on The Record just after Sports Plus. Mike?
All right, Mark, thank you very much. And I know you'll be following this breaking news very closely. The Democratic National Convention is going to be historic next month. Mark will be there live, reporting from Chicago every night. Be sure to tune in every night starting August 19th. And our political coverage doesn't end here. Tonight on The Record, we will have expanded coverage and analysis on President Biden dropping out. And we took The Record on the road this week. You want to tune in to our expanded coverage from the Republican National Convention. That's tonight after Sports Plus.